How you holding up? This week I think I'm going to take on this challenge here. This is a paneled um, angled dress with, what is that, like 6 pieces on the front with that centerpiece, so that's B7, and then probably the same amount on the back. This is definitely bias cut, and you can tell that because there are no fitting mechanisms, no darts, nothing. And pretty much throughout the whole thing. Potentially the shoulder piece. This is not bias cut um, because the mesh is fairly stable and they want to keep it stable so that the shoulders don't get weird. Shoulder shape doesn't get weird. And it's really hard to see if there is anything going on in the upper bodice portion, but I'm pretty sure that's also bias cut. I don't see any dart lines or anything throughout here. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is moving the dart shape that would be here to the side, just so that it's a curved side panel. Okay, here we go. So I started with my regular torso foundation. I've drawn in some guidelines. For this one, I did add this cap sleeve here, which is fairly easy to do. I just took the top of my regular sleeve pattern, cut it in half, and basically glued it to this armhole on both front and back. And I arbitrarily chose 3 inches because this looks like it comes down a good amount from where that shoulder seam should be. This square that's here in the front and back is my guideline for the center panel, and I'm realizing now already that I did that wrong. The width I want for that total should be 1.5, and then same in the back. And that's sort of an arbitrary guess, but that looks pretty close. This seems like it's a little bigger than 1 inch, but not 2 inches, not 3 inches, so 1.5 seems like a good mid-ground there. These are my guidelines for the black bodice portion, so I'm going to adjust these because they need to connect to there. Yeah, I like that. That'll work. I'm going to do the same thing here, and what I did on these two is I used my direct select tool to grab that anchor and this anchor, and I moved them both at the same time along the same path that they were already there. So the back, I'm going to have to change this curve, but we'll get to that later. I also used my skirt length formula to figure out that the whole dress length should be 40 inches down from the waist. So again, direct select my anchor points and drag them down to match these guide boxes. Okay, so what do I want to do first here? I think we can cut out this center section. We're just going to add an anchor point here and then scroll all the way down, add an anchor point there, use the favorite snipping tool, snip it there, and snip it here. Now I don't actually need this box, so that's going to go. I'm going to, as long as it's not connected to anything, which it's not, I don't know why it gave me that weird bounding box. We're just going to scoot that out of the way and come down here. Okay, so now for this piece, I am going to, I think, I forget how to do it. I know you can redraw the bounding box so that it doesn't look so crazy. Not that it matters, but maybe it's in transform. Oh, it is, it's in transform. You can reset bounding box, and now that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, and the width of that is perfect, so we're gonna leave it like that. So what I'm gonna do with the front panel here, I think I'm just gonna drop the neckline down to match that anchor. And then And what do I want to do? Let's see. I know I'm going to need this to be a box eventually. So we'll come back to that. And then same thing here. I'm going to draw another line and attach what's left of our dress pattern minus the center inset thingy. Yeah, so I like that so far. I think now, excuse me, it's probably a good idea to cut apart each section. So I'm going to use the anchor point tool to add anchor points on my dart. And that way I can cut it there and there. So let's see. Oh, I forgot that I connected it. Okay, that's okay. So I'm just going to use the snipping tool and cut it there. And now I can grab the skirt and just scoot it out of the way. So now we've got a very angled skirt panel with a dart. However, that dart's going to go away eventually. Let me connect these pieces first just so I don't lose anything. And we'll come back to that in a minute. So in theory, if you were doing this not bias cut, you would leave this dart here. You would adjust this line so that these two lines match. And then you could have a dart that fits better here. But because this is seamless, basically, nothing there, I'll show you what I like to do to get rid of this excess here soon. Same idea up here. I'm going to snip at the end of that line and snip at the corner. Oh, I don't need to. I just moved it. I didn't end up connecting them. So we've got this. Oh, and then I need to add anchor points along my line there and there. Yes. Cut those. Oop. Did not mean to move that. And I'm going to shift. Holding down shift makes these nudge farther. However, you can change the amount that each arrow key nudges it if you go into your preferences. I think I do like 1/8 of an inch or something like that. Okay, so I'm reconnecting that, and reconnecting that. The cool thing about cutting through the dart like this is that these patterns can just be married together again. So I'm going to line up those anchors, and then using my rotate tool, we're going to rotate this whole pattern back to here. And actually, I know that these shoulder lines match, so we're going to do this backwards. And adjust that line. Let's rotate this again so that these lines finally match. And then to true up this pattern line. So because this dart, I sliced through this dart in such a crooked way, that's why this has a lot of extra here. But if I just take that anchor and retrue it, it gives us a little curve there, which is perfect. And then these will line up again. So then I can use my direct select tool, click and drag over these two lines in the center, and I can delete them. Magical. I'm going to click, drag, join those anchor points. I'm going to click, drag, join those anchor points. And there we go. That's our top piece, which will connect to that guy. Like that. Okay, now we have to figure out what to do with this business, with the two darts in our main bust piece that needs no darts, as far as I can tell. So what do I want to do there? Let's add some anchor points along our dart legs, and I'm going to get rid of both of those. And so that kind of works like the contour shaping like I showed in one of the other videos. However, because this is bias, I'm a little bit afraid. Let's see if this will even work. I want to move Oh, actually, you know what? Let's do this first. Let's click, drag, and join our corners on both top and bottom here. And then I'm going to take that anchor and this anchor, and I'm going to scoot them hopefully along. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to happen. However, I'm realizing now that I really wanted to put a guideline in the middle and then rotate it just about there, parallel to the slices I made up top and underneath. And what I'm going to do is add another anchor point here. And now I'll go back and get rid of that guideline. We don't need to see it. Grab this and that anchor. If I shift this, there we go. Boom, that's the curve I was looking for. Perfect. Same thing. And match it there. That's a little strange, but you know, I think as long as I can, I'm gonna just sort of smooth this whole curve out. And like that. Yeah. It seems like it would fit really strangely, but I think that's the only way we can get enough space for the bust without any darts. Speaking of which, bye-bye, no darts. So click and drag and join my anchor points, click and drag and join my anchor points there. Cool. So now we have this one, which will fit this curve. And so that's a little bit of a dart. We might not need so much curve here, but again, I'd have to make it to see. All right, now we are on to this guy, skirt pattern. It looks to me, because there's a lot of fullness down at the bottom, it's not like a pencil skirt, which would be impossible to make that long anyway without special venting and pleating and such. I'm going to make this an A-line from the hip mark by closing these two dart legs. How am I going to do that? Okay, I figured it out already. Magic. Slice this and find an anchor point that's in line. I need to use a guideline. Sometimes it'll let me do it without a guideline, but apparently not this time. I'm going to cut that as well. Now I don't need my guideline. Now I have these pieces. Oh, I should. Snip and snip. Okay, perfect. So usually when I do the shaping for an A-line skirt, I'll take it from the bottom of the dart here and then just rotate to close. Which, you know, that kind of worked. This line got real wonky. That's my worry, is that this line is now too short to fit there. You know what I'm going to do is I'll just move this one back to there. So it's still a little bit smaller. It's not as wide of a flare as I would want or something like this, but I can always just add to it later. I think I like this the way that it is. I'm going to bring this anchor point up, I think. I'll have to double check to see if this line matches that line. But I'm also going to take these two anchors, which were the waistline, and I want to give me a little more curve. So this is going to make this piece much curvier on the side seam. I don't know if I need to. Let's look at this. I mean, this is really smooth across the front here. It almost looks like there's some shaping here. I can't tell if that's just because she's walking. So we could do, let's add an anchor point there. Same idea. We can eliminate some of this curve by scooting that way. You know, I kind of don't hate that, honestly. It's really strange, but I think that's a good way to get the waist dart in this pattern. Okay, so I'm going to delete what were my dart legs. And now I'm going to click, drag, and join those anchor points there. And if I click, drag, and join these two anchor points, even though they're not overlapped, they're super far away, it still selects those two and you can still join them. And it gives it almost a curve. I think I'm going to add more curve to it later, but I kind of don't hate that. Yeah, it looks like that'll fit pretty well there. There's a little bit of a dart there to make it fit the waist better. This is super weird. I'm not sure I like that at all. I'm not sure what else to do with that. Huh. Well, I think because this curve is so big, we could do the same thing. Let's throw an anchor point in there. I am going to rotate, or not the anchor point, sorry, throw a guideline. Rotate this so that it's about parallel to these two lines. We're going to throw an anchor point there, and then I can get rid of that. What I want to see, I have to put this next to the skirt so I can see how this shape is going to change. But I'm going to take that anchor and this anchor and scoot them. Oh, that's a little better. That makes this curve on this side a lot less dramatic. Still going to be a challenge to fit it, but... And then I want to add a little curve to that one as well, just so it's a little smoother. I should probably curve all of these corner pieces because they're not going to sew as corners. I mean, not like these corners, but like any of these edges, like right here, they should be curved a little more. Ooh, well, that's going to be interesting to sew. Anyway, that's pretty much it for the front. So same thing. Let's go to the back. Let's make sure that this is actually lined up to our back neck. But because of, did I make sure that this is actually 1.5 inches total? It is, okay. Okay, why did it want to make it 1.5002? That's just silly. Okay, lining this up to the back neck again. And so I have this little disparity here. I think I'm going to just bring this down the back neck point until it matches there. And so we'll end up cutting away certain pieces. So same thing, adding an anchor point to there. If you shift and scroll, it scrolls a lot faster. And I'm going to cut that, shift and scroll again, cut that. Now I don't think I need that little guide box anymore. Grab this guy, shift him over, and close that shape. So now we have that shape similar to our front shape. Let's move this anchor point down just so that it matches. Add an anchor point here so that we can cut this upper portion away. Cut that there. So there's that. I'm going to, I don't know if I like that. Let's see. I don't want to have the shoulder dart just because I don't want it, but we can use a guideline. Let's throw that just between as best we can. It's not really going to matter. I'm going to add an anchor point there. And I want to make sure that it's got some handles. And then let's rotate. Let's click on these anchors here. Not that one. And then rotate the dart closed without moving stuff. Ah, perfect. So this ½ inch is now in this curve. That's exactly what I wanted to happen. So now I can delete all of that. Whoop, not the whole thing. I want to get rid of this, and then using my A tool, I just want to get rid of the dart legs. There we go. And now, oh, you know what I forgot to do? Okay, so what I forgot to do was change the shape of my back shoulder to match my front shoulder. So before I started the video, I removed an inch on the front shoulder to smooth out the shape, and so I'm going to do the same thing there. And let's see. I am going to, I'm not sure I'm going to like that when if I sew it, but I always like to have my handles for my anchor points be perpendicular to like the center back seam, or or like this one makes a right angle at the shoulder. I think that just makes the pattern work better. But I could be totally wrong, who knows. That's just how I've always done pattern drafting. Okay, now let's see. I'm going to click, drag, and join those. I'm going to close this shape using the pen tool. And then I need to cut this. If I grab the right one, it'll, yeah. So now this is separate. And then I also want to add anchor points along this line where the dart was, there, and there. Oh, I meant to do that on the dart. Huh. There, and there. We're going to cut the dart. And now, using the nudge, I'm going to nudge that. And then, let's see, what do I want to do now? Oh, you know what I forgot to do completely, which is probably bad? Let's undo the nudge. And this way I can see where I'm going. I forgot to close the front of my, the center back of my skirt. Okay. Now I'm not going to lose that line, which is good. Okay, now I can nudge that up, separate the pieces, and close those so that they match again. Perf. All right. Now I want to close that dart and add some curve. How do I want to do that? I kind of like the straight line that's here, and I really don't like the front straight line or the front curve line I added there. So let's ignore what I'm going to do with my direct select tool. Grab this anchor, grab that anchor. Of course, again, I want to throw another anchor in there and give it curve handles. And re-grab those. We're going to shift this until it closes the whole thing. Yeah, that I like. And now that dart can go away. So that's our back with that little dart shape in there. Yeah, so that'll give us a little more fitted biasness. And see, I feel like I should do the same thing here because I hate this. This is ugly. I'm not sure. It's tough. Because I'm not sure how else I would fit the bodice. Oh, you know what? Like that. That looks really good, actually. And now I'm just going to get rid of the handles to make that a straighter line. That's way better. Okay. So this works like a fisheye dart, but at the bust in the front and not in the middle. Okay. I like that so much more. Okay, now we do the skirt on the back. I need to throw a guideline at the dart. Same idea for when I do the when I make an A-line skirt and eliminate the darts. And then for this one, just like I did the front, rotating from the dart just to close this so that they match better. And then that. And then I suppose I'll do the same thing that I did on the front of that. This time I'm going to be a little bit better about where I throw this anchor and not just guess. But there's going to be an anchor there, and I want to give it handles. Get rid of that guide. Find my anchor with my direct select tool. Click both of those and nudge this in. Yep, I love that. And then we'll do this one. Oop, no. There we go. That's a fun shape. Huh. All right, and I don't want to get rid of the entire shape. I just want to get rid of what used to be the dart. I'm not going to worry about this here because when bias stuff hangs, it gets narrower and longer, and so I don't need to worry about whatever quarter of an inch tiny dart that's left. Okay, so now, are those close enough together? If you zoom way in and click away, sometimes you can see, yeah, no, they're pretty much on top of each other. Click, drag, and join. And I think that's basically it. Oh, and that one, click, drag, and join there. I probably do want to add some fullness to the skirt because this looks way bigger than what I have here. So what I'm going to do is grab the, gosh, if I could get them to snap. There we go. And then I'm going to rotate. I'm walking my patterns. Usually I would do the big circle to figure out where I want to add fullness, but I don't like that option for this pattern, just because this one's kind of strange. So we're going to rotate from there and just keep walking it until the lines match. I'm trying to get to the hip anchor, which you can see this guy here. So I'm trying to walk this until those meet on front and back. That was not what I wanted to do. Click, rotate, click, rotate, and just do this. This is how I test to see if my patterns are even going to fit each other when they're done as well. It's a good thing to do to just check your work like that and make sure that they will meet up when all is said and done. What do I want to do here? I'm not really sure, but I kind of want to, with the back pattern, I want to trace this front line, and with the front pattern, I want to trace this back line to give me a lot of overlap and fullness here, which won't overlap, there'll be side seams, but I'll show you what I mean. So for both of these pieces, I'm going to cut through the side anchors here and there. So now we've got these two, which are separate. What I'm doing here is I'm taking this back, this is the center back, but I don't want this to come with it, but I do want the front side seam to come with the back. Does that make sense? So now that I've selected those, I'm going to scoot this out. Aha! So this gives us a lot of curve that comes out from the hip area, and then same in the front, gives us a lot of curve that, or a lot of flare. Let's not say curve, let's say flare. And I'm just going to rejoin these. Actually, I need to find whatever I just did, undo it. There we go. I just want to make sure, I always want to make sure that my anchors are on top of each other before joining them like that, just because if they're like actually on top of each other, one of them will disappear. So now it's just one anchor that I have to move, which is great. And then again, I can click and drag and join those two, and we get a fairly smooth-ish curve down there. This one is not the same. Again, clicking and dragging and moving and joining. This is a weird, it gets a little wide and then too narrow. I think what I'm gonna have to do, what do I wanna do there? I could move this anchor just over. And then smooth out this till it matches that line. Yeah, that's probably fine. And then we'll join these as well. Okay, so these patterns probably could use a lot more flair, but for how I want to do this right now, I think this is fine. I think it'll look like a nice, elegant, flared, especially because it'll be cut on the bias, and the bias hangs differently. Okay, so front panel. What I'm gonna do there, if I could speak, we're gonna transform, reflect, copy, and scoot it. So I've done this before in a few of my other videos where I want something to not be cut on the fold. And it's this right now. This is just the easy way to make a solid mirrored pattern piece. And this way, there we go. So now we've got our full 1.5 inch inset in the front, and not as 3/4 of an inch that you'd have to put on the fold, which would be really annoying. I'm not gonna do that to the back because, why because? Oh, because it needs to have a zipper. There needs to be a way to get into this, which, oops, I realize now that I probably could add this back. That's going to be a pain in the butt. Now we'll just say that this needs to have a zipper, and so it's going to be along the whole center back. So what I probably should have done was left the center back full on these on the black piece that's here, because it connects to the neckline there, and then done sort of like a keyhole where this connects, and then our back straight line piece would connect to from here, and this would just be open like where a zipper would be, or where you put a button at the back next so you can get your head into this. But I didn't think that far ahead, but that's okay. So this will just be 2 pieces and a zipper that goes from center back neck to there, 8 inches-ish below the waist, or like where the hip anchor is. So it'll be a pretty long zipper for this one, but had I thought that ahead, we wouldn't have that issue. Anyway, I think all of that looks good. I would not cut these inset pieces on the bias. They need to have their structure and their strength, so they need to be straight lines. I'm going to add seam allowance to those, object path, offset path, and then do 0.5. And I'm leaving the seam allowance on the back because it needs to have a zipper. These two can be good to go. Not that it matters, but I'm only right now adding seam allowance to the ones that are cut on the straight of grain like normal. Ooh, what did I miss on this one? Looks like I forgot to close or attach some of my anchors. Let's just get rid of the whole thing. And I betcha it's that one. Yarp, connect. Now we're good. Do it again. Object, path, offset path. Boing, perfect. Okay, much better. Okay, so the grain line for the shear pieces that are up here, your grain line is going to go there-ish, basically perpendicular to, no, parallel to where the center front and center back would be. So that's, that's where those would go. But for the rest of these, because of the way that they curve and hug without any fitting, these are going to have to be cut on the bias completely, which is going to be kind of funky to figure out. But what I'm going to do is zoom in so I can actually get things to snap. Line up this anchor to that anchor. Ah, see, that's pretty. That's going to make a pretty dress whenever I decide to actually make this. I'm going to put an anchor there. No, I'm going to put an anchor here, which in theory, yep, should line up to the bottom of my skirt, my waistline, and the top here. And now what am I going to do? Oh, yes. I'm going to make a box. That's, who cares, 5 by 5. And line it up to that guideline there. I need to give it a stroke so you can actually see what's going on. And if I subtract that anchor point, we get this triangle. Oops, don't do that. Move the whole thing. Now this is our grain line, which is a 45-degree angle to the straight line of the center front. Same thing here. And then actually basically the same thing for the back as well. Yeah, so then when you line up your patterns, pretend the guideline is the edge of our fabric, you're going to have to do it like that so that you get the bias fitting shaping that's happening throughout this whole dress. So this will be very much a challenge to get to fit on fabric, but if you've got a wide silk charmeuse, which I think is probably what that is, it'll work. So now I can add seam allowance to all these. Like I said, it didn't matter that I wasn't adding seam allowance to them before, I just wanted to explain stuff first. So path object, offset path, whatever. And with our grain lines. Oh, it looks like I didn't finish something on this one. I'll scoop this up. I don't know where, but probably there, where that awkwardness is happening. So let's delete that and delete this and click and drag. And it's not that one. How about that one? Or that one? Not terribly sure. Aha, that corner. Okay, now again, object path, offset path. Boom. Perfect. All right. So there we go. We've got our, there it is, center front with the neckline, and that's the sheer part here with the drop shoulder, cut on the straight of grain. We've got our black bodice portion cut on the bias grain. We've got our skirt cut on the bias grain as well. Our center inset cut on the straight of grain because it needs the structure. Back cut on the straight of grain. Back black bodice section cut on the bias. Skirt cut on the bias because of how it fits so nicely. And then center back inset, which if I was actually thinking, I would have done this way differently and made it so that there was a keyhole, so you didn't have to have a 4-mile long zipper to fit this. But otherwise, it's pretty good. Alrighty, so if you like that video, hit that subscribe button, give me a like, and send me a drawing, send me an anime character, send me a game character, send me a picture of something that has a costume that you think I should pattern draft, because I find that a lot of times in drawings, the people who don't know how to sew clothes don't draw clothes that make sense. So I want to see if you guys can find something like that for me. Send it to me and I'll draft it in the pattern for next week. Alrighty? Have a great weekend.